Kyle vs. Leila, Battle for the Cyberdomes is the first book in Stuart Wilson's Metanormal Defense series. Wilson basically took every facet from fantasy and science fiction that interested him and combined them all into one book. There are dragons, vampires, robots, nanobots, even a video game-like reality called the Cyberdome. It's the wildest fantasy of an action comedy-loving gamer. The plot is intricate, with enough twists and turns to keep a reader satisfied and guessing. I would have liked to see a little more depth in the characters, a little backstory, a better look at the emotional impact. Aside from the main character, we don't see a lot of this. It's more talked about than shown, and I would have liked to see it. Wilson set up a very interesting world, though I did find myself wishing for more clarification or integration with the norm and the, well, metanorm. At first the world seems like a normal, modern-day world, but then it introduces the secret organization whose job it is to ensure the safety of normal reality from things like vampires and zombies. Okay, up to then he was doing good. I had a pretty good idea of this world and what it was about. But then enters Leila, who is a member of this gypsy-like clan with mysterious, almost magical powers called raw chi. I didn't have a problem with this. It's a pretty cool idea. My problem was that I didn't know where to stick this clan into the whole scheme of things. They're just there, obviously on their own, with no real explanation or indication as to how they got there or their relation to the rest of the world. They have magical powers, possess knowledge of the aforementioned secret organization, and have their hands on some pretty sweet high-tech, including like this time-stopping ray, which doesn't exactly align with the norm. But because my impression up to this point was that the world, for the most part, was our everyday modern world, their possession of plasma guns and this raw chi power made me question my entire understanding of the universe so far. And because this isn't ever addressed, I found my belief in this reality suspended, and I couldn't quite get back into it. More backstory on the clan, how they were formed, how they discovered raw chi, their relation to the secret organization, and their standing with the rest of the world would have helped a lot. There were also several things in the writing style that bugged me. He often wrote out dialect in the dialogue, and I found this more distracting than helpful, especially with Leila, because I couldn't tell if her accent was supposed to be redneck, or because Wilson is British, that was just his way of showing she has an American accent. Now, I have also harped on this with books in the past, so I have to point out that in this book, there are misused semicolons. The last thing that really bugged me was an excessive amount of dramatic pauses. He employed a lot of these, sometimes 2 or 3 a page, using either dashes or ellipses. For those of you who don't know, ellipses are the 3 dots often used to show the trailing off of dialogue. Now, I had 2 problems with this habit of the writers. 1, he used it way too much. It became tired and ceased to trigger any suspense at all. 2, I personally do not like this style of illustrating a pause. It always feels like the writer is trying to make it feel like a movie scene instead of a book, which is what it is. For the most part, though, this was a very fun read. Wilson has used a lot of imagination with this, and it's kind of a geek playground, a conglomeration of all the cool things that are usually associated with this mentality. There is some crude humor. Also, quite a bit of swearing. It was always used in, I guess you could say, an appropriate context of extreme emotion, but I could have done with less. I think the story would be a good read, especially for gamers or other people who enjoy video games, because it very much has that kind of vibe to it. It's chock full of humor. It made me chuckle aloud a couple of times, snippets with characters, and a little banter. Kyle vs. Leila, Battle for the Cyberdomes by Stuart Wilson gets 3 stars. And I've added links into the box below where you can either read it online or download it for your ebook devices.